everybody, and welcome back to the channel. Today I've got another interview for you with one of the language learners I admire most, somebody I've got to know from attending language learning events over the years, and that is Maureen Millward. She has an amazing capacity for learning languages, but today we're going to talk about Scots. Now, you might not know Maureen already, so Maureen, could you tell us a bit about yourself as a language learner, first of all?
Yes, I've been learning languages seriously since about the age of 16. I started off with Latin languages, mainly Spanish. I did Spanish at university, and then I went on to study Italian and then Portuguese. I spent some time working in Italy, a little bit in Spain as well, and I use these languages in the European finance industry. Then with the invention of Skype lessons and iTalk, it opened up so many more doors for me that I was able to learn lots of different languages and travel to the countries and speak the languages. So I'm constantly learning something new.
So the reason I was keen to have you on the channel at this point in particular was because you just developed a new course for the Scots language, and I'd like to come on and ask a bit about what the course is and how you came to write it. But first of all, what about the Scots language itself? Is it, because this is not the Gaelic, which is the Celtic language spoken in the Western Isles and historically in the Highlands, it is a Germanic language. Is it really just a dialect of English?
Definitely not. Firstly, before English arrived, or Old English arrived, or a Germanic language arrived in the British Isles, the whole of the British Isles were speaking an old Celtic language. And then the Angles arrived from what is now Germany or Denmark area, and they brought with them this language, this Germanic language. Started off in Northumbria in northeast England, and then it spread into England and Scotland. But it divided into two parts, but it never derived from English. So people would say it's a dialect of English, is not right.
So it's like English, it developed from a common Germanic root. But then the different, if I've followed that correctly, tribes, if you like, who settled in the east of the British Isles, the Germanic tribes, they then developed in parallel, really, in the early centuries. So you had two parallel trajectories between English further south and the Scots. And then political changes, the union between Scotland and England, the formation, first the union of the crowns and then the United Kingdom at the start of the 18th century, means that Scots loses in status and loses its sort of official context. And there was an Anglicisation of the elite, I suppose, was there in Edinburgh.
Yeah. And even before that, we had King James VI, who was the son of Mary Queen of Scots. When he became King of Scotland, Elizabeth I of England died with no children, so he was the next in line for the throne of England. So he became King of England and Scotland in the end, and he wanted to have more English in Scotland as well. So even before the start of the United Kingdom in the 18th century, 100 years earlier under James, he was already starting to do that anyway and make English a bit more official in Scotland.
So we get into the 19th and then into the 20th century, and standard English, I suppose, was being taught in the education system. By this time you've got a mass education system, but people were in some parts of Scotland still speaking Scots. Is that right?
A lot of people still do, and the education system only taught English, everything in English. So even for me, trying to write Scots for this course wasn't very natural. Speaking obviously is, but we don't have any standard spelling or anything like that because we've never been taught how to write in it. It's changing now. Now school children have access to books in Scots, and in schools are trying to encourage teachers to give some lessons in Scots. But even when I was at school, it was completely different. The teachers would correct you if you said something in Scots, and we had to try and speak standard English all the time. So it was completely discouraged, basically. They just wanted us to speak standard English. Obviously, we still had our accent, but everything, all the books, everything written, everything had to be standard English.
Although there is a tradition, even during the period after the Union, of Scots being written down. You have songs printed, and then I'm thinking of poets like, obviously, Rabbie Burns were writing Scots.
Mm-hmm. Yes, he's still. I mean, he's the writer of the famous New Year's Eve song, "Auld Lang Syne," which is sung in most of the English-speaking countries at New Year, but a lot of people don't know where it actually comes from. The original lyrics are hard to understand today, even for Scots speakers, because the language has changed so much. And it was after his time that more English started coming into Scotland. So the language has changed a lot. His is like an older version of Scots.
But there are still words today, I suppose, because as I understand it, the sort of the grammar and the sort of sentence structure seems very similar to English, but it's the vocabulary and the pronunciation that's mainly different.
Yeah, it is. Yeah. The past tense is a bit different, but really the grammar is very similar.
So, in a way, it strikes me as being very similar to the story with Ukrainian and Russian, for example, where you have two very close languages, although there was more of a movement to develop written Ukrainian in the 19th century, more of a linguistic national movement, as I understand it. But in terms of the closeness, maybe that's a good comparison, or the Scandinavian languages.
Yeah, possibly. I think maybe it depends on the words you're looking at, really, because there's some things I would say or I would write that an English person just wouldn't have a clue, whereas I think maybe with the Scandinavian ones, I'm not an expert, but I think certainly with Danish and Norwegian, they can understand the majority that's written. For us, I think it depends what you're saying or what you're writing, really. Some phrases are completely different, and some you would know straight away.
Yeah. So, and how do you use the language socially then today in your life, in certain contexts more than others?
With family, all the time, automatically. And then people in my own area, again, it's just automatic, really.
So you find yourself reverting when you go back to your native town?
Yeah, it's automatic, yeah.
Yeah. Are there parts of Scotland where the language is stronger than other parts? So obviously in the Highlands traditionally it was Gaelic, although that's very much a very small minority now. But in the traditional Scots areas, the lowland Scotland, I suppose you'd call it, are there areas where Scots, rather than English with a Scottish accent, has prevailed, is still relatively
I think in our area, in Glasgow and Lanarkshire, definitely. The borders I don't know much about. I know people do speak Scots, but I don't know as to how much. I think for us, I think we hear it a lot more than when I go to, say, Edinburgh. Not sure why. Our dialect's different, and it's probably harder for an English person to understand than if they went to Edinburgh, for example.
So where are you from, in Scotland? Where are you from in Scotland?
Lanarkshire, which is near Glasgow. So the course I've just written is based on that dialect, which is Lanarkshire and Glasgow, pretty much the same. And we have some unique words that aren't used in other parts of Scotland. And there are words that they use everywhere else in Scotland, but we don't use them in our region. So ours is a little bit unique in that sense.
Are there newspapers? You mentioned there are some school books in the language now, or stories. What about newspapers or radio or television broadcasts?
In the Scotsman newspaper, they now publish, they have a journalist who writes regularly in Scots. Before, this is quite a recent thing, I don't know how long it's been going for. Before, obviously, you know, like when I was a child, there was nothing except cartoon strips in newspapers. We had some quite famous ones, and they're also available in a book to buy, like an annual every year. It's either the Bruins or Urwilly, it's called, and they were always in Scots. So we always had that. And they were funny. They're meant to be funny, but they're also funny, I think, because of the words they're using. Because to see those words written down it's quite funny when you're not used to it, you know. And apart from that, there wasn't anything. But now there's children's books, there's literature being translated. We've always had poetry anyway, but I think more priority has been put into Gaelic because the numbers of speakers are so much less than Scots. So it needed a bit more investment really to try and save the language. So there's a lot of literature in Gaelic at the moment. There's bookshops that specialise in Gaelic or Scots literature. So there's more and more now, and every year now there's more and more books and materials for schools as well.
Let's move then over to talk a little bit about the course. Now, you've worked with the team at Language Boost, I think. How did you come to be asked, or did you suggest writing the course? What's the story of how you took on this project?
Well, some people had approached me at the polyglot events that I've been attending to ask about Scots and about some phrases and that kind of thing, and they were interested in learning it. Where could they learn it? And there are a few websites with dictionaries and with information with phrases, and there are some YouTube videos, but not really enough for somebody to learn it as a beginner and in depth, really. And then I got to know Lucas and Jan from Language Boost, and they were asking me about Scots, and Lucas was trying to learn it from me, and then come up with the idea of doing the course, because obviously these two had done courses before with their Language Boost brand, so they knew how to go about it, and so we could do it without a delay, really. And it just would depend on me doing the translations and the audio recordings. So I agreed to do that, and we launched it yesterday.
So it's their Language Boost, Vocab Booster, I think it's called.
Yes, it's a Vocab Booster course. I was actually aware of it because I'd used a course in Russian to do a 50-day challenge with lots of other people a few months ago, and I liked the format of it for beginners. I wrote a review about it on my blog, so I knew exactly how the Scots course would work and what it would look like, and I thought the structure would appeal to beginners. So I thought this is probably the perfect way to start a new course is through a course with this sort of format, because you get flashcards built in with it through Anki. But they kind of do it all for you, and they give you videos on how to set that up. It's very easy. And videos on how the course works, and you can do it online or offline. So the video tutorials were excellent, because I'm not very good with technology, but even for me, it was no problem at all. So all that was very good as well.
So it's a standard template, if you like, that they have for this course, and your task was to populate it, if you like, with the examples from Scots.
Yeah, and do the audio, yeah.
So what does the course offer the learner? What will I have learned if I go through this course diligently?
It's 500 expressions that are very common things you might say every day. So the Language Boost team, they had already chosen the vocabulary they wanted to translate. And obviously, because I'd already done it with Russian, I knew that the vocabulary is very relevant for beginners and very common expressions that are useful. So I was happy to go ahead with that.
So it works then on a laptop, a tablet, or a mobile, does it?
Yeah.
That you were working to the template then, but it was still, I imagine, quite a big task to create your first course.
Yeah, it took quite a while to do, because 500 expressions to translate is quite a lot. As well as that, because there's no standard spelling, because we haven't been taught how to write in Scots. Obviously, I know I can translate anything, but the spelling, I wasn't always sure what to put. There's actually no right or wrong answer because there's no standard. So with some words, I would go to the online dictionary for ideas on spelling, and they would give you some variations, and I would put what I think is most appropriate and easier for the learner.
Now, from what you've been saying about the availability of books for children and the odd newspaper column now, materials online in the language, there's something of a revival going on. So this might be a good time for somebody who's interested to learn the language. Why would somebody want to do that, do you think?
I think people who are, make the effort, and like, for example, just Lucas from Language Boost, who has made the effort to learn the Scots expressions as we've been going along and doing the course, to me is really a nice thing to hear a foreigner try and speak it, because we're really not used to that. And it's just nice to see him trying to write to me in Scots as well. I think you put a smile on people's faces. And obviously it's nice to learn minority languages to help grow them, and so that they never become endangered as such, and dwindle away and get lost even.
So it's about connecting with people, commitment to the place and to cultural diversity. And I suppose showing respect too for...
I think so, yeah. And showing how much you like Scotland, really. I think for people who are really interested in Scotland and coming to visit, and making that a part of their visit is just a really nice thing to do, I think.
And having, to finish then, having written one course, could you tell us, do you think you've got the bug for course creation, or is one quite enough? Thank you very much.
No, I would consider doing other courses if there was a need to, if I thought that would, if I thought there was a gap in the market, or it was something that people wanted, then I would still consider it.
Great, well, congratulations on completing the course. I'll put a link underneath for people if you'd like to click through and find out about that. Can you remind us, Maureen, of your blog, the address of your website?
Yeah, it's languagelearningjourney.wordpress.com.
Okay, well, thank you very much. And how do I say goodbye in Scots?
Cheerio is the standard that we used to say.
Great, cheerio then.
Cheerio.